The following is a paid program by Zola Levitt Ministries. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. Zola Levitt presents.
Shalom and welcome to Zola Levitt Presents. I'm Miles Weiss. This is my wife, Catherine. She's my co-host, and today we have a very special program for you. We have the ability to bring to you an unveiling, in a sense, of one of the greatest works of art I've seen in the modern world.
It's a piece to be seen.
Yes.
It's a prophetic piece.
Yes.
It takes the Holocaust
Yep.
and the Crucifixion, and it blends it together in life-size form.
I know, it's an amazing work that you can't even imagine until you see it, really,
Right.
and the impact that it has on people that are exposed to it, both Jews and Christians.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible speaks about the desert blooming like a rose, and really this work of art is in the desert south of Jerusalem. The sculptor Rick Wienecke is a Canadian transplanted to Israel. He's been there for many, many years. He's become a citizen, and he's done this amazing sculpture called the Fountain of Tears that has such an impact on both Jews and Christians that we just want to get you right to the interview. So let's go to our interview with Rick Wienecke right now. Why Israel, why sculpture, and how the Fountain of Tears?
First off, with Israel, I came to Israel when I was about 21 years old. I was, at the time, a total sold-out pagan. I was into everything under the sun that could be defined as bad in Canada. But because of that lifestyle for so many years, it pushed me into a place of desperation that I knew that if something didn't change in my life really drastically, that I would either be dead or I'd be in prison, because it was the only natural outcome really for the way I was going then. And so I went out one night and I just said, if there's anybody up there, I want to give up all this junk. And I had, at the time I was driving cab, I had something happen to me a short time within a few days after making this big proclamation in the field that made me believe that there was actually a God, that there was someone outside of myself. And I started to search, who was he exactly?
How did you get into sculpture? How did this happen?
Well, the sculpting part, in a sense, after seeing that the interaction of God with the Jewish people. I read a lot of books still in Vancouver about the Holocaust and the beginning of Israel as a nation, until finally at one point I decided it was enough. I'd read enough and that I was going to come to Israel. I thought I would be here for 6 months and work on a kibbutz. And during the time of coming to the kibbutz, I started to learn what was really the impact of the Holocaust on Israel as a nation. But also within that space, I started to sculpt. I started to carve wood when I was on the kibbutz.
I came here, saw the Fountain in Tears, and wept for 2 hours. Tell me, how did this happen?
For me, it's the whole drawing out of what the Fountain of Tears was the very beginning of me coming to Israel. I was drawn to Israel because I was so fascinated with how could these Jews declare themselves as a nation in 1948, 3 years after the Holocaust. And when I ended up coming, as a result of coming, people in my family gave me a New Testament to read because they all thought I was going to get killed for sure for coming over here. But I found myself drawn to the person of Jesus out of reading this New Testament. And at the same time coming to the kibbutz, I was meeting with the older members of the kibbutz were Polish Jews that had to escape out of Poland before the onslaught of the Nazi onslaught into Poland. And they carried everything that I had read about before coming to Israel. The thing that had drawn me was the concept of the Holocaust and 3 years later the declaration as this nation. They carried it. It was their memory. And it wasn't stories in a book for me anymore. It was real people, real relationship. And out of that relationship of trying somehow to define the person of Jesus to those that the definition of Jesus had been so wronged historically, the Lord created then for me a language within the arts, within the sculpting. And the ultimate expression, I would say, of that is the Fountain of Tears.
When we return, we'll take a close-up look at Rick's remarkable project called the Fountain of Tears.
For insightful perspectives of Israel and Bible prophecy, ask for our free monthly newsletter, The Levitt Letter. When you call, be sure to ask for our free catalog with the latest videos, books, and music. Our correspondence course, the Institute of Jewish Christian Studies, includes reading packets, teaching CDs, and mail-in tests. You may want to join us on an upcoming tour of Israel or Petra, or cruise the Mediterranean visiting Greece and Ephesus. Please contact us for more information. The Bible lands. You've read about them. Now encounter them for yourself. Walk in the footsteps of Jesus at the Jordan, Galilee, Jerusalem. Journey in the shadow of Paul to Athens, Corinth, Ephesus. Join Miles and Catherine Weiss on a tour of the Bible lands and witness the Word come to life as never before. Call 1-800-WONDERS.
For Daphne and I, when we look at this piece of work and even in starting on it, what we see this as is a dialogue of suffering between the Holocaust and between the crucifixion. And when we started to look at these two personalities, we thought, okay, what expresses the beginning of the crucifixion? For us, what you see within this piece is Jesus struggling within Gethsemane. It's the sense of the cup is full, the cup of suffering has been placed into his hands. He's struggling within himself, even the decision, but it's almost like he's a drink offering poured out over this large stone. It becomes then this conflict, the struggle, whether to step into the crucifixion or not. But we felt like if it's a dialogue between the two, this is where it all begins, with the decision to drink from this cup. The first panel that we're looking at out of the 7 last words that Jesus speaks from the crucifixion is, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do. I wanted, in the sense, in creating this panel, a sense of declaration. And in a way, it's almost like the figure's coming out of Jerusalem's stone. He's making a declaration of forgiveness, asking for forgiveness, but in a way, he's creating a covenant that's based on forgiveness. What you look at when you see the figure that represents the Holocaust, for all the survivors that I've known, the word forgiveness is the biggest place of struggle for them. It's almost like, how do I forgive an entire nation? How do I even ask God to forgive in touching this area? So the figure's in a place of struggling. He's clutching his chest, but he's leaning against the stones that within these 6 pillars represent those that perished within the Holocaust. The next panel that we come to is, today you'll be with me in paradise. The sense within the crucifixion, the body's being pulled one direction, the hand is extended, trying to touch the stones that represent the perished. The other hand and the left is going down, it's drooping. And in a way, it's a reaction to the 2 thieves. One thief in his last minutes of life is crying out. He's cursing in a sense, the one thief. But the other thief that's drawing the attention of the crucifixion is asking to be remembered. The identification within the Holocaust is two-directional. The hands are going both ways. The survivors that we have known over the years have constantly said to us within the camps, we were like both these thieves. At one moment, we could curse God for the place that we were in, but at the same hand, we would cry out to him and ask him to remember us within this place. The third word is, mother, this is your son. Son, this is your mother. Looking at it from the place of the crucifixion, this is Jesus speaking to his mother and John, the only disciple that stayed with him during the whole course of his suffering. The Holocaust, it was a struggle for me because I kept on thinking, where is the identification somehow within this part of the dialogue? But what you see is the sense of the Holocaust carrying this very heavy cloth that is draped over his shoulder, and the end of the cloth is in his hand. Within the folds of the cloth is a really surreal-looking woman's figure interwoven. And in a sense, it's characteristic of all the survivors that I've known over the years is that they are constantly carrying the memory of the dead with them. It's almost like the Holocaust has put a mantle over them and they identify to this. I thought to myself, the words spoken from the crucifixion is like it's like a relationship that's unnatural being created out of a place of suffering. Because Mary wasn't naturally John's mother and John wasn't naturally Mary's son. But in the same sense for the survivor after the Holocaust, he carries this unnatural mantle that's put on him is the memory of the 6 million that becomes a relative to him. This middle panel was the hardest panel for me. The word from the crucifixion in this is, my God, why have you forsaken me? The sense in touching the crucifixion in this word, it's a cry that goes upward. Everything within the Son is expressed looking for the Father. The head is exaggerated, it's thrown back. It's almost like even with the lips in the crucifixion, he's looking for air somehow. And I thought to myself, for Jesus, this would have been the worst part. All of a sudden not being able to find the Father. Everything within it, it's almost like his last breath. Everything is going upward. The figure that represents the Holocaust, out of all the other figures representing the Holocaust, he's the only one that has his back turned to the crucifixion. The hands within the Holocaust, it's like he's throwing his hands behind him. And in a way, we're trying to reflect the word that you hear so much from the survivors is in touching their history within the Holocaust, where was God? Where was he? It always seems to be the question that was floating. It always stays within their thinking. So the figure is throwing himself through time with the same word. One of the things that was the strongest within this word was the sense of being thrown into a situation where you move into the word, I thirst. Everything within the camps, everything in relationship to trying to survive. Within the crucifixion, what you see in this word, everything is moving downward. The fingers are surreal, everything is being pulled. We've tried to make the feet come to a point, almost like the last tear or the last drop. The figure representing the Holocaust is also moving down, but the hands are two-directional. He's trying to touch the last drop represented within the feet. because they would say within the camps that they could survive for a long time on small pieces of bread, but without water to drink, they were dead within a day. The next piece, the next panel is, it is finished. It's complete. Within the crucifixion, it's a sense of declaration. The hands are covering the heads of the nails because we wanted to show a completion. Somehow he's bringing it to an end. The figure that represents the Holocaust represents the Polish identity to the Jewish people within Europe. At the end of World War II, those that survived the camps were trying to come back to the closest place of memory that they had. But what they found was that there was nothing left. Everything had been taken from them. So within the figure, he's covering his face because it's a loss of identity. The one hand is up in the air, so it shows, in a sense, the loss of direction. The seventh word is, into your hands I commend my spirit. Within this word, there's nothing left within the crucifixion. There's nothing more to give. The figure representing the Holocaust is collapsed. It's almost like the two elements are buried together. Those that perished represented within the cloth, and those that survived. It's almost for the years between 1945 and 1948, both were buried together. The whole working for us between this dialogue of suffering between the Holocaust and the crucifixion was always a sense of a question. Could there be a possibility somehow within these two places of pain, these two places of suffering? We began to realize that within each one of these words there was an identification. Generally, you look at the identification in a large sense. There was death attached to both. There was burial attached to both within the 3 years between 45 and 1948. Our prayer, our cry was, is there also an identification within resurrection? In looking at this piece, this is a reflection again of where was God? The sense of identification within this place. You get this by looking at the child and you think it's a sense of abandonment. He's feeling an abandonment within this position. He's on the inside of the crematorium. Everything that he has known before him has been taken away from him. What you see on the other side of this door is an exact copy of the crematorium doors from Birkenau, Auschwitz. This whole piece was inspired by a book of children's poetry called I Never Saw Another Butterfly. But what you see on this side of the door is the crematorium doors, but you see the arm of the child that you don't see from the inside going through this closed door, but the hand of the child is clutching a small piece of ground just outside of the door. The small piece of ground, this little piece of geography, represents the land of Israel. It becomes this place of resurrection for them as a nation. It becomes, in a sense, for the child, it becomes the butterfly that the child never sees, but it belongs to him. It's the possessing of the land.
You know, we know the impact that this is having on you as viewers, but it's also having a huge impact in Israel. We've heard that there are, and there have been, people of government that have come down to view this sculpture because it's such a profound message of the crucifixion and the Holocaust together. And so it's almost like Nicodemus coming at night to find out, what could this be?
Yes, exactly. You know, I remember when we first saw the Fountain of Tears, I wept for 2 solid hours. I was so overwhelmed by the juxtaposition of the cross and the Holocaust, and to see the Jewishness of the gospel and the reach of the Jewish Messiah for our people, and to see it put in the framework of the most horrendous event in Jewish history. It was just such an impact that let's just go back to Rick and have him show us some more about the sculpture. So back to our interview with Rick Wienecke.
This final piece, we call it a resurrection of relationship. It's the two parts of the fountain, the two parts of this dialogue of suffering coming together within an embrace. Both of the figures are coming out of the stones that represent the perished and coming into a place where they finally recognize each other. Both of them within this stance, over them is raised the cup of suffering. The cup of suffering is now empty. It's been drunk. Both of them can identify to this place of suffering, and somehow within this wound, both of them recognize each other. When you look at the fountain in a general sense, the symbolism within each one of the elements, there's the 7 crucifixion panels, each one of them being one of the 7 last words. But a divider between each one of the panels are 6 pillars of stone. The 6 pillars of stone represent a memorial to the 6 million. What you see over the surface of the stones is water going over the surface really slowly, because we wanted the sense of tears within this. Because one of the main words that we got in the beginning was out of Jeremiah, where he's crying out and he's saying, "O Lord, that my head would be a spring of water and my eyes a fountain of tears, that I would weep day and night for the lost of my people." The sense within the tears then goes down to the bottom of the pillars. The water is drained and is carried underground just outside of the courtyard that represents the tears going out, this whole expression. But what we've done is we've planted 6 olive trees on the outside that represent the place of redemption, the place of God wanting to pay back what was taken from them.
Like lambs led to a slaughter, shadows of death we faced alone. Where was our God when we were dying? The awful silence from his heavenly throne. We wear the scars of being your chosen. We bear the shame on David's star. We are your people, battered, broken, hatred, murder. There we are. Innocence lost, our sons and daughters. Down in the valley lie victims unknown. Why then, O God, as we were crying, did you not hear us as we died alone?
This sculpture called the Fountain of Tears will bring you to tears, remembering the Holocaust and remembering what happened in the Holocaust. Innocent children, families, and their lives taken simply because they were Jews. Mm-hmm. At the other side, though, of this sculpture is the resurrection.
Yes.
And the hope that Yeshua brings.
Yes.
And the eternal life that we can have with him.
Yes, it's always both and.
Right.
That there is the suffering of the Jewish people and Yeshua, and because of his finished work, the hope that there is for us. You know, regarding Holocaust denial and all the nonsense that's coming across the airwaves, we have a way to push back against that by sending you our free newsletter every month. It really speaks about these issues and gives you a prophetic view of what's coming in the earth as we look to the return of the Lord, how events will unfold as we get nearer to the coming of Jesus. This week's offering, of course, is this series that we're looking at today. It's the Holocaust by Zola Levitt. He did an incredible teaching regarding the events of the Holocaust and really knits well with this sculpture that we're showing you. I just really feel like we need to bless God for being able to bring this kind of a program that brings the reality of history for the Jewish people, but also the hope that is in the sacrifice of Jesus. They go together. And so we want to thank you for standing with us and for standing for the Jewish people and for Israel. And so as we go today, please remember, Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim.
Pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Our offer this week, The Holocaust, a series of 6 programs that covers the most tragic event in world history. Zola Levitt reports on the awful Holocaust through hard-hitting interviews and location taping at the Dachau concentration camp. As an insidious form of anti-Semitism now grows around the globe, it behooves us to be aware of the historical perspective that brought Adolf Hitler's regime into power. The Holocaust, featuring the teaching of Zola Levitt. Also, please call toll-free or write to receive our monthly newsletter, The Levitt Letter. It's absolutely free and contains insightful article and news commentary with a refreshing perspective you won't get from the mainstream media. The Levitt Letter is also available at levitt.com, along with current and archive TV programs, our national airing schedule, and much more. Please remember, Zola Levitt Ministries depends on tax-deductible donations from viewers like you. This has been a paid program brought to you by Zola Levitt Ministries.